Well, delegates at the 17th CITES conference have rejected an ivory trade mechanism. South Africa, Namibia and Zimbabwe's recommendation for the adoption of a decision-making mechanism, or the DMM, for future trade in ivory has been thrown out following a heated debate. Burkina Faso, Kenya, the Republic of Congo and Chad were very vocal and against the proposal. Well, negotiations over the plight of Africa's elephants were held at the COP17 conference taking place in Johannesburg right now. The proposal from the Secretariat to extend the mandate to the CITES Standing Committee to continue the debate on the decision-making mechanism failed to achieve the required two-thirds majority. In 2007, CITES initiated negotiations on a DMM for a process of trade in ivory, which could lead the way toward reopening of international trade. Debate over the years became protracted and provoked considerable criticism. Well, Tommy Dixon is at the big CITES conference underway in Sandton. We're live to him now. Good afternoon, Tommy. Welcome to the News Today desk. The DMM on the sale of ivory rejected, and overwhelmingly so by COP. How did it all play out?
Well, thank you very much and welcome here at the Sandton Convention Center. Well, it was a very controversial moment when that mechanism was rejected at one of the committee rooms here, emphatically rejected, in fact. Here's what is happening. The CITES decided about 8 years ago to consider the proposals that were coming from various countries, including the SADC countries, that maybe they should re-look at the question of the ban of ivory sales. And then they decided to set up a mechanism which they called the decision-making mechanism, which would look at the future possibility of actually lifting the ban on ivory sales. And so all the way over the last 8 years, they've been discussing that issue in terms of how do we make sure that we lift the ban on ivory sales. And so this conference here was now given that responsibility to decide on whether CITES should consider uplifting the ban on ivory sales. And so this morning, delegates at a meeting here rejected that notion. They say that process must be disbanded, it should be discontinued, there should be no talk about any possibility of actually introducing or resuming international trade on ivory sales. It's a very controversial issue here. In fact, so controversial that it has even divided African countries. It's one of the things that we don't normally see when Africa attends such multilateral platforms, that it will be divided on such issues. They normally speak with one voice. But what we see here is an African continent that is divided. Earlier on, I had a chat with the Minister of Environment from Kenya, who is part of the group that is actually opposing the view that there should be a resumption of ivory sales in the continent, or rather in the world. And let's take a look on what she had to say.
Of course it helps to ban the ivory because we have now sensitized the destination countries. We're working very closely with China. We've begun developing a discussion and raising awareness in countries even like Japan to say that the continued use of ivory for trinkets, it has no other value. It's just for trinkets, is endangering these species. Our philosophy is that the animals, the ivory, the rhino horn, is worth more on live animals.
But some people are arguing that there's quite a lot of money that can be earned from the ivory. Let's take the case of Zimbabwe, for instance. They're arguing that they've got like massive stockpiles in their warehouses that is worth about $10 billion US, and that's the money that they're desperate for. Namibia is also making the same argument, and I suppose that Kenya could do with such kind of money. Why are you banning the ivory instead of selling it?
I've just explained to you that the species are endangered. I've also explained to you that the appetite for the ivory and the rhino horn is growing in the destination countries.
But those countries who want to sell, shouldn't they be allowed to sell?
If we continue to sell the ivory, and it has been proven, we create the impression that it is available. It is not available. We are killing these animals. The more we sell, the higher the poaching in all our countries, and we have seen it. And let me tell you, Kenya, we are succeeding in limiting the poaching. South Africa is not, and that is a fact. Why is this so? It's because South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe are creating the impression that ivory and rhino horn are available to perpetuity. That is not the case. The science has shown it.
Well, that's just the view, very strong views there coming from the Kenyan minister. In fact, making very strong accusation against South Africa, Namibia and Zimbabwe, saying that they are fueling this poaching crisis that is happening because they are giving the world an impression that ivory is available and therefore giving an opportunity to poachers to come into these countries to kill the animals. Let's hear what the South African Minister of Environment had to say about this.
I think we should not find ourselves doing tit for tat, because there is still going to be a good discussion in the group where these matters have been referred of the elephants, and also in the plenary itself. So I think it is important that we don't start accusing one another. Ours are debates that are based on science, and ours are debates that are factual. We do have populations, it's a fact. You can't take it away. We do have ivory, it's a fact. It's not compared to anything. That's even what the scientific reports are saying. So it's not any impression creation, it's a fact. We're talking facts. And on the basis of facts, we are saying because this body functions in a manner that actually says, given a particular scientific report that says the elephants are still in a stable stage, you make a decision on the basis of that. And this body does not make decisions on blanket approach, because we differ from country to country, we differ from region to region. Even the Mike report analysis does say that the evidence that has been found, that is a scientific report, is based on the fact that the differences or the weaknesses are created by the fact that in some areas there's habitat weaknesses, there are conflicts in some instances, all those sets of issues which are not applicable mainly in the SADC region. And we're not proud about that, we're not boasting about it. We're saying let's work together to ensure that wherever you find those conflicts, we deal with the problem and not try and look for a wrong solution to a problem.
Now, do you stand, as South Africa, do you still stand by the view that, in fact, the stockpiles of ivory that are available in SADC countries, including in South Africa for that matter, should be sold instead of being destroyed?
Well, that's a proposal that, by the way, that's submitted by SADC member states, which we support. It's Namibia and Zimbabwe. For now, until there's a different scientific report on the table, we will still pursue that discussion. But remember, these discussions are about negotiations. Hard negotiations have now started. So we will engage openly, with open hearts, with open minds, to try and find solutions. In the final analysis, it shouldn't be, and it can be, that we say country A or group A has won and group B. What must win is our animals, our iconic animals, not who, but our iconic animals.
Well, very strong views there coming from the Minister of South Africa. Clearly, you can see that the tensions are quite palpable here. You can see that they are taking different approaches. It's a continent divided. There's a group of 29 countries. They're calling themselves the African Elephant Coalition. They are pushing against the reopening of the ivory sales. And then you have on the other side, South Africa as part of the SADC group. They are now trying to push for an opportunity to be able to sell, the oversupply of animals that they have in their countries, as well as the stockpiles of ivory that they still have. So it's going to be very interesting going forward how this conference is going to solve this issue. With that, it's back to the studio.
Tommy Dixon, of course, coming to us from the CITES conference in Sandton with the largest agenda in 43 years. We will continue to bring you rolling live coverage of the CITES conference right here on the SABC News channel, so do stay tuned.